just and a moment of silence for those who are, that we pray and believe will recover from the virus. So we can just take a moment of silence for that, and then we'll move on to our meeting. Amen. Thank you. And then I just wanted to officially, on the record, celebrate and thank Mr. Kerry Watson, who has served the council well for 3 years and is moving on to bigger endeavors, and just want to celebrate him and thank him for his service to the council and to the county. And so, Mr. Watson, thank you, sir. And so I call the council's attention to the minutes that you received. Please review those, and once we have had an opportunity to review, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented, or if there are any questions or concerns, we can lift those at that time.
I move that the minutes be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to accept the minutes the minutes from our February meeting as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Those opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. I'd like to move on to the next item in our agenda, the FY 2020 local impact grant updates. So during our last meeting, we talked about allowing those individual grant applicants that were originally disqualified, if you will, for lack of a better term, during the original review by OMB, and giving them an opportunity to make corrections and submit them. And so there were 20 folks who were allowed that opportunity. There were 26 folks that were allowed that opportunity. We received 20 of those applicants back, and of that, 12 were allowed to come through. So we now have a total of 27 applicants that are being considered for the FY 20 funding. And so I thank the committee who is already working and moving forward, beginning to review that second group, and has established a working schedule to get those completed as quickly as possible. I invite other members on the council, if you are able, to please reach out to Ms. Larkin if you can assist in reviewing some of that second batch of applications. During this time, we have received some questions from some of our FY19 grantees in terms of because of the impact that the pandemic has had on their operations, questioning if the funding would be extended, if it could be repurposed, and of that matter. And if you recall, I forwarded to you a draft.
I got it.
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Senator Patterson. Okay, I hear you. Okay. I was wondering where that voice was coming from. I couldn't see. Okay. So we drafted a response to those concerns, and that was forwarded to you. Because of its being tied to the use of funds, it was thought better than just sending that forward based on our consent, that it needed to be something we needed to review and put to an official vote. And so if you have, I think it was sent to you, It was sent to you with the agenda and such. If you would review that, if you haven't already, and we can go ahead and take an motion to adopt that so that this response can be sent to.
I think that's it now.
I reviewed. I'm supportive
I
with
see.
my thumbs up.
All right, thank you. We're all trying to get used to this, so please bear with us. So I think we've all had an opportunity to review the document. Ryan, do you have the document that we can just flash it on the screen so that the LDC can see what I'm referring to?
Hey, give me 1 second.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
am I coming through loud and clear? I have a couple comments on that once you put it up on the screen.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'm good to go. Thank you.
Okay. No, go ahead. I can take your comments now, sir.
And I don't have it, but I can tell you, the last two paragraphs of the letter, are we on the response about repurposing funds? Is that the one you're talking about? Because I missed the first. Okay.
Yes, that's the document we're talking about.
Yeah, I just had one, I was a little confused there because in one paragraph, I think it's near the bottom, it speaks to a simple majority being 8 members of the council. But down at the bottom, where it talks about the final approval, it just says a simple majority of the council members present. So I guess I'm concerned if there are 5 local members, then could 3 just reach the final conclusion on that? I didn't make a copy of that.
I'm reading through it now. I'm reading through it again now.
It's the last.
Yeah, I'm fine. I have found it. I'm looking through it now.
Okay.
There's the document on the screen.
Yeah.
So your question is, well, one, we can't, well, I think one, we can't make any official business without a quorum being established.
That's right. That's what I said. It's probably just assumed, but it just wasn't clear to me. But I don't think 5 could be a quorum because you've already said in the previous paragraph, you got to have 8.
Right. So yeah, 5 could not be a quorum, and with just 5 members, we could not conduct any official business at all. So it would have to be under the strength of a quorum having been established.
But it did say a simple majority of those present, though, did it not?
I think it's as long as we have a quorum. So if we have a quorum of 8 people at a meeting on a conference call and 5 of those members vote affirmatively, that passes.
Yeah, but I think, okay, I understand what you're saying, Senator. So let's correct that to make sure that where it says simple majority, that we say considering that there's a quorum present at the time of this matter being raised.
It wasn't quite clear. I mean, I'm okay with it, but somebody else could pick that up and
no, I understand.
Okay.
I certainly understand. Does everybody understand the change that we're suggesting?
Can you tell me where that simple majority language is?
I think it's in the last paragraph on page 2.
Okay, I'm trying to find it now.
Where is page 2? I don't have page 2.
That's what's currently showing on the screen right now.
I got LDC authorization.
That's page 2.
That's paragraph of
That is page 2.
That is page 2. It's the second paragraph of
the second
LDC authorization.
Oh, okay.
So let's change.
It's so small, I can't even read it.
let's change that. That says where it says an eligible organization's request to repurpose its funds may be approved only by a majority, 51% or more
Oh,
of the LDC members' presence on the conference call.
And that's a true statement, right? But we can, if it's unclear, we certainly can make it more clear.
And I would just add to that, so long as a official quorum is established.
Right. Okay.
I think that will make it clear.
Okay.
Are we all in
Okay.
agreement? If we're all in agreement to that, the chair will accept a motion to adopt this document with those changes so that we can get this out to the grantees and let them know that we have not forgotten them and helping them through this time.
I
Move
move we
approval.
adopt the document with the said changes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the document in response to FY19 grantees as suggested, modified with the adopted changes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all so much. Another reason why I wanted to make
Can you
sure
take
that,
the document off the screen for us?
okay, I'm sorry, Mary. Thank you. Oh, and I took my glasses off like I don't need
Now
to
you
see.
can't see.
Okay, so moving to new business. Another question that came up from one that had been raised was, could the LDC, could we as a council make recommendations to use some of the funds, the overage funds, to help organizations or members of the community in the local impact area as a result that have been impacted by the pandemic. So we asked the questions, and it looks like overage that's been set, that's set for $907,000. I asked the question, and what we're finding out is because of the impact on the budget, there has been a repurposing of some funds that's not LDC funds, but what they're restructuring, and Ryan helped me, they're restructuring the multi-year spending plan looking into FY21 and the proposed budget, anticipating that in order for us to have due funds in 21 to do the grants and such, because it appears that it appears that the hold harmless clause is still going to be intact to impact what needs to go, what Baltimore and Anne Arundel County will get, although all the casinos have been closed at the same time. And there's no proration as it's been stated. And so it looks like the hold harmless provision that we have talked about on several times, and that we have expressed its the unfairness that it presents to Prince George's County and this community, that although all of the casinos have been impacted the same, we are still seemingly going to be held responsible to hold Baltimore and Anne Arundel harmless. And so there's really not much we can do until we see what happens once things clear up. Zeno, I see you've got some things. So any questions or concerns? I know all of us were hoping that there was something we could do to help those funds move into the community, but I just don't see how we can do it with the restrictions that are being held, that are being funneled through in terms of the hold harmless provision.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zeno.
Thank you, Reverend Chandler. This was brought to some of our attention by another one of our community leaders, Jay Kruger. And I know it's late in the year. I'm not sure what, if anything, can be done to try to reverse that decision that seems so blatantly unfair. I think we would all agree to that. But in the hopes that perhaps something could be done, I did send a note earlier this evening to our 26 legislative district members. They may not have had a chance to read that email yet. And Obi, I tried to call you, Senator Patterson, but I had your old number, so I wasn't able to reach you. But in that note that I sent out, I brought to their attention, if they didn't know already, that the state office that administers the casino funding has decided that, just as you said, Reverend Chandler, they're going to abide by that 100% hold harmless provision. And it seems to me that if the casinos are closed for 4 months out of the year, 5 months, whatever it finally winds up being, that hold harmless provision should be prorated, so to a like amount of months. If they're open for 8 months of the year, then only charge 8 months worth of whatever that hold harmless amount should be. Again, a notice about that was sent to our state legislators. Perhaps they may be able to get the ear of the governor or someone in the governor's office to reverse this. Perhaps not. I have no idea whether or not the county executive's office has been working on this, trying to get the attention of the governor on it. So, whatever will be, will be. But at the heart of it, it just seems so blatantly unfair.
If I may, Reverend Chandler.
Yes, ma'am.
Zeno, did you say you sent a message? Was that today?
Yeah, that was today,
Okay.
just a couple of hours ago.
Okay, so just based on that, I haven't seen it yet, but an offline conversation that Delegate Walker and I had, and this was before we even knew we were having this LDC meeting, because he used to be on Ways and Means, and we had a brief discussion on that topic because we were just trying to foresee what possibly might happen because all the casinos are shut down. So even though I haven't seen your message, we had an initial conversation, so I'm happy to, help in whatever way, whether it's a letter to the governor or what have you. But there were discussions that we both had, separate individual conversations with folks on Ways and Means about the hold harmless clause in general, not because of, this was pre-COVID, trying to see what percentages we could get. And with all the haggling that was going on this past session, especially with the diminished timeline, and then people focused on Preakness and Baltimore and trying to help that racetrack, some of those numbers got reduced. But given the current situation, I will follow up with you on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Valderrama.
My own?
Senator Patterson, go ahead.
Yeah, I got the email and I did have a chance to read it. I don't think you got any opposition from most of us as state legislators. It's just that we got a tough group to deal with, especially when you think about the area that get the most of those funds, which happen to be Baltimore, is in the president's district, the president of the Senate. That casino is right there in his district. And I've sort of casually mentioned it. I've had meetings with budget and taxation. And I also had a meeting with a rep from Maryland Live. In fact, he sent me about 5 or 6 areas of concerns relative to new legislation he's talking about in terms of how he still think they're going to be even more so impacted because of the virus situation. So I don't know where he's going with that, but you know, I've always advocated that I felt that perhaps we should not, or if we did, I don't think the money should be taken out of the local impact funds. So, but that decision rests with the county executive. The reason we don't get monies from the table games, that's a decision that made by local county council executive. So, you know, we, we've been round and about on this issue, and you know, at some point, you got to know when to just throw your chips in and try to work on the other bigger things. But I think, honestly, I just think it's going to be a tough uphill battle to get them to reduce the whole harmless fee at this point. But that doesn't mean that we can't keep trying. I think every year we need to put it before them. You know, you get new people from time to time, and perhaps we can get the votes to get it out of budget and taxation. But that's a tough committee. But we do have 4 Prince Georgians on that board, and they need to be a little bit more sympathetic to those of us in the county.
Yeah, and Senator, this is Zeno.
Yeah, Zeno.
Again, I think we stand with you and wholeheartedly agree that trying to get that whole harmless provision rescinded or sunsetted is going to be a major task.
Yeah.
But more immediately for this year, given the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, if some relief could be provided to prorate just this year's hold harmless earnings, if you will, dollars that go to Baltimore and Maryland Live, that certainly would seem to be fair. Just doesn't seem fair that our casino, all of the casinos, would be closed for 4 or 5 or 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And Prince George's County would still be expected to provide a whole year's worth of provisions to make the other casinos whole.
I agree with you 100%. I agree. I don't think you have any opposition from me on that. I know you're not, but
So I guess I have a question as it relates to that, and I agree obviously with what's being said here, but because of COVID, because this isn't something anyone could have ever predicted, there are unprecedented times, there are all these things that we're going through that couldn't have been predicted and haven't been planned for. So given the kind of like Zeno said, the longer term strategy of changing of this, sort of setting that aside, but dealing with this immediate issue, what can we do formally? Senator Patterson, it sounds like you were saying it's got to come from the county executive. Like, do we send an official letter, to the county executive to petition that in the short term this be fixed? I guess I'm just wondering
what's the process?
Can we do? Yeah, like what aggressively can we do?
Well, actually, the first thing we have to go back to how it got there. And it got there in 2012 by Senate Bill 1 in a special session that put that into law. So to change that, we got to go back through the General Assembly in an effort to get it changed.
Okay, that's the longer term change, but just this provision of for the past 4 or 5 months, the casinos have been closed, like trying to sort of solve the shorter term.
For the term, we certainly can meet with the 2 major committees. One is Ways and Means, and the other one would be Budget and Taxation over on the Senate side, and see if we get a sympathetic air of rally enough delegates to get it, I guess, passed in. We got to pass legislation one way or other, because I don't think we can just arbitrarily do it without, and we won't be back until January. So, but still, we should give it everything we got. But I can tell you now, these folks are coming, those that we talking about, those casinos are coming in asking for more relief.
Wow. Okay, Delegate Valderrama,
yes.
and then Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Reverend Chandler. Thank you, Obi. Thank you, Senator. I was just going to say, Ms. Hall, in answer to your, in a shorter turnaround time, I agree with what the senator just said, but I would also add that if we can get our county exec on board, since she is our governor, if you will, of our county, and we all sign on board in the interest of time, the legislative process is obviously due, and so based on that, I would just say, a letter from all of us, the LDC, with the leader being the county exec. I think that makes an emphasis. As I mentioned earlier, Delegate Walker, who used to be on the council pre-COVID, we had conversations. And regarding legislation, we actually tried to put sunset language on the hold harmless bill, but when everything, went awry, obviously the priorities shifted dramatically, and hold harmless was at the bottom of that list. And that comes from the higher up, that comes from leadership. So without any personal intent, but I think in the interest of time, in answer to your question, if we can get county exec on board and we just, draft that letter, it would just show. And to Senator Patterson's comment, I definitely think it's something that should be brought back around each year. I don't think it's something we should ever hold back on. Again, we just tried to do it this session, and like you said, unprecedented time. So the timing was just not good.
Thank you for that. And just the follow-up, Reverend Chandler, that my recommendation would be that we write a letter to, from the LDC to the county executive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, certainly we will do that. And also please note that each year with our response to the multi-year spending plan from the very beginning, that has been a part of our response, requesting partnership with the county executive's office and our county council, as well as a state delegation, to do whatever was necessary to move forward with getting a sunset or total rescission of this bill. So yeah, I will take it on and draft a letter in response to this immediate situation, and working and see if we can, working on up the chain as the delegate has suggested, and send it for the county, to the county executive's office, and then, let it move on from there. I will do that.
Mr. Chair, did you not do that this time around? I think you did. Put together a letter, and I think you sent it to the county executive along with some other things you wanted, probably.
Yeah. Well, that was a letter to the
What was it?
council's chair's request for information and comparison, and that was in the pipeline to be delivered. And I think, and Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was in the pipeline to be delivered. And when all of this COVID-19 things began to happen, that also, like many other things, was not the priority. So we can certainly suggest that that letter moves forward. But if we need to send a subsequent letter or an additional letter specifically addressing the hold harmless and this, so Zeno, will you help me to draft that letter, sir?
Sure, I'll be happy to assist with that.
Can I just ask you gentlemen to make sure that we ask the county executive to make this a part of her priority package that she sends to Annapolis? That would give us a little oomph if she feels strongly about it.
Okay.
Right.
Reverend Chandler, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Everyone, I know everyone wants to chime in. Let me just point out folks as they come. Carrie, you had something you wanted to say, and then Zeno, and then Delegate Turner.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just to Kim's point, the legislative process will take a year or more to go through, and fiscal year 2020 is a pretty unique circumstance based on what we're seeing right now. I'd like to get an idea of what your opinion is on maybe getting an Attorney General's opinion from one of the elected officials here on the board, because the law that was passed was, as far as I can tell, based on a 12-year calendar, and this 8-year calendar essentially is a very unique situation that maybe the letter of the law might not fit in this circumstance. So if you were able to reach out and get an official Attorney General's opinion about this particular circumstance, maybe the county could feel some relief from this.
Okay. But we don't know, I guess we could be waiting another couple months because we don't know how long this is gonna last, do we?
Yeah, I think we're all in a holding pattern. Zeno, Zeno, go ahead.
Yeah, my comments were somewhat along the lines of Kerry's. I think asking for a ruling from the Attorney General might be a very good idea, but certainly these are unprecedented circumstances that we're in that were not anticipated by, I think, any of us. But what I was wondering and thinking more along the lines of was some executive order from the governor's office. Now, I don't know what emergency authorities or powers the governor would have under the current conditions, but I do know that he does hold some sway over the budget in consultation with the legislature. And I also know that there have been some politics involved where the governor has withheld monies that the legislature wanted the governor to spend, and they came back and passed legislation forcing that spending to take place. I just thought, in the interest of time and given the emergency that we're currently under, that perhaps the governor might have some authority to direct his executive branch agency to prorate the funds. And for that, I would turn to our state legislators who are on this call, who would know much better than I would whether or not something like that is even doable.
I would first have to find out if that can be done during the interim when we're not in session, and report back to you at the next meeting, if you will. I mean, we don't have anything to lose by trying to get an opinion from the Attorney General's office. It's just that we are in a pretty sticky situation up there. We got 22 bills, some of them very key. They got vetoed.
Right.
And the relationships in terms of working together, I just want to just tell you, it is, in my opinion, not quite the same as it might have been earlier when this might have been a better chance to do it. But we can give it a try. I'll take the lead on contacting the appropriate people to find out if it can be done during the period when we're not in session.
Thank you. Delegate Turner.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I agree with a lot of things that y'all have said. Just wanted you to be aware that during the time we were in session, it had been brought up so many times, especially in the Prince George's delegation. I'm talking to a lot of some of those delegates to try to, I kept bringing the subject up, and they keep saying, well, you know, we gonna have to get it through and talk to the right proper people. I want you to know that don't think that we have not brought it up over and over again while we were in session, okay? And the pushback we've been getting, but we will not give up. We will not give it. That whole harmless, believe me, it's important to us. And it's important to all of us. And you got 3 elected officials in here that will fight. And I will be willing to help OB, you know, do what we can do to bring it back up. Zeno, believe me, trust me when I tell you, it has been brought up over and over again before they cut us short in the session. You know what I'm saying? And it was important because, you know, right now, that whole harmless clause is a headache, and we want it solved and we want it taken care of. So I want you to know that you got some key people that will help with that subject.
All right, thank you so much, and we do appreciate the efforts of our elected officials. And please let us know what we can do to support your efforts as you continue to try to move this through.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I just missed one small part of what Delegate Turner was saying. Was she saying that she's going to bring it back next year, or try to deal with it in a special session, or what was that? Oh, maybe.
I don't think she said.
I'm sorry, I had to walk
I
away
didn't,
for a
I
moment.
didn't
I
say
just-
about,
I
No.
think she was saying just, Carrie, just letting us know the efforts that they've been putting forward during the current session, the past session, and their continuing efforts and determination to continue to keep this in the forefront so that we can move this forward.
right.
thank you.
Okay, so just to put this to bed, so to speak, Zeno and I will work to get a letter a letter specifically addressing these special circumstances to the county executive's office. We will draft that and get that moving as quickly as possible. And we will also, if I would ask Ryan and Shaka both, if we can get a status on the letter that we had prepared to go to the county council in response to the chair's request for information from us, that we also address the issue that we can see where that letter is, and if we can make sure that moves forward as well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
since you guys are going to get your letter out first, perhaps if I could get a copy of that, because then I can use that and send to the Attorney General that has been requested by a body of people. So that may help it to get a little bit more attention, if you will.
Yes, sir. Certainly, before we send anything, we will make sure that we run it by the council, and then we will make sure that everyone is copied on what we send out. So
Chris and Veronica, you both willing? You okay with being a part of the draft letter that we're going to send to the AG?
Oh, yeah, and I'm pretty sure AG Frosch his office won't, well, depending on what side he's on, won't have a problem putting an opinion during the interim.
and so what I'd like, okay, thank you. What I'd like is I'd like the council to pass a motion giving Vice Chair St. Cyr and I the authority to draft and push that letter forward in terms of addressing the hold harmless clause in terms of this special circumstance for FY20, so that we don't have to reconvene in order to get it through. So if I could get a motion to do that, giving us that authority now, that would allow us to move forward.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to authorize the chair and vice chair to draft, to forward a letter to the county executive's office in response to the proposed hold harmless agreement and its impact on the FY 2020 and 21 impact fund. Is there all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. The motion carries.
And Reverend Chandler,
Yes, sir.
this is Zeno. One thing I'll point out is that I think the county or the state's fiscal year ends June 30, right? So
Right.
that's correct. We really don't have a whole bunch of time.
No.
I don't know.
You're absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how long after the end of the fiscal year the state office that divvies up the funds acts, but we would need to move with all deliberate speed given
Absolutely.
the impending end
So,
of the fiscal year.
well, we have been given the responsibility, so you and I can certainly work on that, and we can touch base first thing in the morning and get that moving. Mike, did you have something you want to say?
No, I was just going to echo what Carrie had suggested. I think it's an excellent approach to this thing, and I moved that the letter be approved. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so before we move to public comments, is there anything or any concerns from anyone on the Local Development Council before we move forward?
I just have one follow-up question.
Yes,
The
sir.
proposals, are they going to be made available to us to review or see those that are applying for grants? Where are we?
Oh, yeah. The second group of the applicants that had been initially disqualified through OMB's initial process were given an opportunity based on our last meeting to resubmit their documentation. Of those that were given that opportunity, 12 of those, 20, there were 26 that had the opportunity, 20 did, 12 were able to correct their applications, are now going through the review process with our committee. So that is going through. And so now we have a total of 27 applicants that are being considered.
So I guess my question.
Well, I only have 11 approved.
You have 11?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Mary. So there's 11 out of that 20. And
No, there's 12. There was a
Oh,
last minute submission that you received that we might need to get out to the rest of the council.
okay. All right.
I only have 11.
Okay. Mary, we'll make sure we get that corrected.
I guess my concern is, will those proposals be made available to all the council members to take a look, or will they just go to the subcommittee?
The subcommittee is reviewing, and they will make their recommendation for the full council. But they have asked for help if for those who might want to read, and so
Be careful what you ask.
Okay. Right. So but they are already moving on those proposals and reading and doing an excellent job. And so
But if we did want to read them and had time to do them, would they be provided to us? How will we get them, given the situation?
Yes, I will send you, if you want to read them, I will forward
Yeah,
them.
I like to read each and every one of them, yes.
Okay, now you need to read and score.
Okay, I do my scholarship thing, I do it. You give me the score sheets.
Not
okay.
a problem.
Absolutely. Well, Senator Patterson will make sure they get to you as quickly as possible.
I mean, this is the best time for me right now because I'm going crazy staying in the house.
I understand. So to get anyone to read them all at once. Silence. Okay, thank you, Senator Patterson.
I'll get that information to you.
You were breaking up, Reverend Chandler.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking, in light of Senator Patterson volunteering to read, I was asking, were there any other members who would like to do so as well? And again, no response. But thank you all. We do appreciate it. Senator, we'll make sure you get the
okay, thank you.
As quickly as possible.
All right.
Anything else from any of the other council members before we may have some public comments. We have some public, we have some community representatives with us, and if they have any comments. If there's nothing else, yes, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead, Pastor
Robinson. I called Reverend Chandler last night. I'm just overwhelmingly concerned about these kids. I don't know where the summer is going, summer school is going, what's going on with the school system. But I raised issue with Reverend Chandler on last night about the possibility, with all this money left over, about the possibility of providing some laptops or computers for these kids that don't have the ability to connect with school. And I don't know where we are with that, or what we can do with that, or whether we can get permission to use some of this money that's left over for the purpose of meeting the needs of some of these kids that do not have the ability to connect online, and what we could possibly do about that with some of this money that's left over. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, and I just don't know what we can do. But there are a lot of children who are not able to connect educationally because they don't have the ability to connect online. I was just wondering and just throwing it out there whether we can do something with this money that's left over, some kind of way to pass something to get these kids involved, to discover who they are, number one, and to get them involved in the process. Anybody?
What are we talking about? We got left over.
Say it again.
How much money we got left over? I didn't know we had that much.
Well, we don't really know because we haven't completed we don't know what's going to be left over in terms of what's available through the grant process, because that's still being worked through.
Mm-hmm.
And so we certainly would be able to evaluate that once we see where we are with the grant process. But I think it would require us to submit a recommendation to the county executive's office about repurposing those any leftover funds for that purpose. And so I think once Ms. Larkin's committee finishes their work, then we could investigate and see what is left, if there is anything left, and then see what we can do with what is left toward that goal, Pastor Robinson. So
listen, one more question, I'll be quiet. I hope we don't get to the position we start not using the money. That, I mean, I don't think we hopefully would never have to just turn monies back because we could not find qualified people in the community to utilize the fund. By the same token, I know you got to make sure they meet certain criteria to get the monies, but I think it puts us in an awkward position to go and rather try to get more money when we're not spending what we've got.
yes, sir. And that's something.
That's okay. I just want to make that statement. That's all.
Okay. All right.
I know you've done a good job. I'm not worried about that. But
thank you, Senator. Thank you.
All right.
Anything else from anyone on the council before we see if there are any public comments that we might need to address? All right, Shaka, do we have any public comments in the chat?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
My name is William Tucker. I'm the president of Forest Heights.
Well, hold on 1 second, sir. Hold on 1 second. What we're trying to do is make sure, for security reasons, if you have a public comment, please include them in the chat, and then we will make sure that those are sent to be distributed. Okay.
Ryan, you may have to instruct folks on how to use chat. Not everyone may be familiar with it.
Okay. If everyone's on their can look at their Zoom page, on the bar at the bottom, it says chat, and then you'll be able to issue a message that we can send to Reverend Chandler to be read to the rest of the group. This is a security measure to prevent issues that we and other government entities have experienced, Zoom bombing from people posting things, quite frankly, just graphic sexual images in Zoom calls, and posting inappropriate comments in chats. So this is a security measure for our government, and other government agencies are also taking heed on. So it's not a transparency issue. We're going to try to get as many questions answered as possible, but we want to make sure it's done so in a safe way and in an appropriate way as well.
Ryan, I noticed you only have the chat option provided for the co-host, so that's a good thing. It's not to everyone in this district. Okay, great.
Yes. So I'm going to start sending the questions to Reverend Chandler.
Thank you, Ryan.
I don't have a chat window open on my device. Are you saying that, excuse me, are you saying that I should send my questions or post my questions in a chat window?
Yes.
I'll just have to send on an email because I don't have a chat window here.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he does, Ryan. It might be the screen that
In the
he's
meantime, we did have some questions that were emailed, and we can address those while the other participants submit their comments.
Okay.
Can you resolve Mr. Tucker's problem? He's saying he doesn't have a chat window at the bottom.
I think he's gonna email his questions
Okay.
instead of using the chat.
Okay, so Ms.
Any
Cavett,
comments can be emailed to pgcldc@co.pg.md, co.pg.md.us.
so we received an email from Ms. Sarah Cavett, the president of IHHAAC, Inc. And her question is, the discussion between Councilwoman Anderson Walker and Director Early of the Office of Management and Budget, which occurred during the virtual budget briefing held on either 5/11 or 5/13, is still not online. It pertained to the hold harmless cause and the impact on funds. And her question is, does Mr. Tutt know when it will be posted? If not, can someone summarize what might have happened? Ms. Cavett, we will, I'm sure that we can make sure this question gets to Mr. Tutt, and we will proceed on with our direction that we're taking in terms of responding to the hold harmless clause. And I will make sure that this question gets to Mr. Tutt and make sure that you get the information that you've requested. Mr. Jay Krieger has submitted some questions in response to the funding, and these look like all questions that we're going to have to refer for more information, but I'll read them for the record. Question 1, what is the dollar amount that the state is now saying Prince George's County can anticipate or is forecast to receive in total for their FY 2020 VLT Local Impact Grant Fund distribution? Question 2, what effect, if any, did the closure of the state's casinos have on the hold harmless provision baseline numbers assigned to Anne Arundel County and Baltimore City, and the provisions are the provisions going to be prorated or adjusted to account for the number of months times that the state's casinos were closed? Anne Arundel County baseline was 18.4 million. Baltimore City's baseline was 7.6 million. I think we've already kind of kicked that question around, and so we have that on the record. Then he says, we still have yet to hear any information regarding comment 3. We still have yet to hear any information regarding the 1.7 million more than forecast or budgeted for the county the county received from the state in FY 2019 VLT impact funds. When is this going to be addressed in a plan for use of the surplus of funds discussed with the PGC LDC? We will have to ask OMB where those numbers are and what's going on with that. We will certainly look into that. And then this would be for our elected officials. Is there any legislation concerning the PGC LDC or use of the VLT local impact grant funds that came about during the past legislation session in Annapolis, or that is currently being proposed or discussed on the county level?
Are we to answer now, or do we wait?
Yeah, you can go ahead and answer that one now.
Okay, well, just based on that latter part of that question, I mentioned briefly earlier about the discussions that were taking place, specifically with Delegate Walker, who was on Ways and Means and had brought it up early on in the session about the hold harmless and how sunset language was implemented or tried to be implemented. But when the whole COVID thing, I'm repeating myself just in the interest of this question,
sure.
When it came up, priorities shifted, and that was not on the way scale. But given the in-depth conversation all of the members here have had this evening, we can take it back and in particular to this inquiry that was just posed about possible legislation.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from any of our other elected officials on the council? And then his question number 5, I gather that due to the pandemic and the unknown timeline for when the casino operations can resume, it's very difficult to formulate a budget and the VLT local impact grant spending plan. That being said, has the FY 2021 VLT local impact grant multi-year spending plan been transmitted to the PGC LDC? If not, and if the spending plan is being redrafted, how is the LDC being consulted on the development of the spending plan, especially since the needs and priorities of the impact area may have changed dramatically in the past few months as a result of the virus pandemic? We have not received the FY 2021 multi-year spending plan. Ryan, would you have anything to add to that question, in response to that question?
I mean, quite frankly, everything's been turned on its head for like the last 8 weeks. So I don't have an answer for that as of yet. As everyone can see, we're just now trying to get back to some sort of new normal here. So I'm going to make sure I consult with Amber at OMB to get an answer on that. But as of right now, I really don't have an answer because they've been scrambling to adjust the FY21 budget to account for everything that we've been going through.
Okay, thank you. From the chat, from Ms. Correa Young, can any remaining funds also be considered for additional nonprofits who want to provide COVID-19 specific services to the targeted population, i.e. food pantries, homeless deliveries, and supplies? We are striving to see what we can do with the funding that we have. In terms of the FY19 grantees, we are sending out a response to you in the next few days that will express how those funds that you were awarded may be used in light of the pandemic. I hope that answers your question, Ms. Young, and I think that also Ms. Hall asked, will the nonprofits who received a 2019 grant be sent a notification? Yes, we are sending that notification to you, and we are still the new timeline. We are still deadline for grant review and notification, the subcommittee, and we are still working very diligently to make sure that we have all of the applications reviewed and submitted for award prior to the close of close year. So we're working diligently to get that done as quickly as possible. We have another question from Ms. Cabot. Mr. Tutt is on the line and has responded to tell you that he will look into it and he will respond directly to you. Another comment from Mr. Krieger. Any surplus or previously unspent portion of the local impact grant funds are going to be needed to meet the shortfall of funds put forth in the multi-year spending plan. The FY20 revenue numbers are going to fall well short what was previously forecast and budgeted. Yes, we are aware, sir, and that's what we are hoping to address and hoping to mitigate some of that by addressing our concern with the hold harmless agreement in this condition, or in these current under these current situations. Shaka, have you received any other emails or anything that we need to address?
I have not received any additional emails.
To all of those who are joining us, if you have questions, please send your questions or concerns to our general mailbox, which is, I don't have it in front of me. Shaka, can you call that out for me, please?
Yes, pgcldc@co.pg.md.us.
Please send an email with your questions and concerns to that email box, and we will address them, respond to you as quickly as possible. I know this is a difficult time for all of us, and we're all trying to adjust and holding Zoom meetings and not being able to see everyone and to be able to directly dialogue with everyone. It's a little unusual, but we're doing the best that we can. And so, again, please bear with us, and hopefully by the time we come to our next meeting, maybe through some means of social distancing, we may be able to meet in person. I don't know, and none of us know what the future holds, but we can all do our best to stay safe and to make sure that we're looking out for one another. That being said, if there are no other concerns or questions from the LDC, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. It's been properly moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, thank you all. Be safe. Take care
Thank
of
you,
yourself.
Reverend.
Look
Be
out for
safe,
one another.
everyone.
Thank you.
Stay
Good
safe.
night,
We appreciate
everyone.
your presence on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.